Okay, start the recording. So to briefly explain, since I forgot to start the recording for anyone who wasn't there when it happened, Dredd was waving goodbye to the people when the mysterious voice in his head explained to him what the new unique skill he acquired did. He then went to go to the former Liza's office to discuss what to do next. Talk with Sydney about how he should have just told him that he was fighting Liza as well. And there was a bit of banter, and now they're in the meeting room.
Yeah, very, very quick, you know?
Yes. Let me just unpause. How do you slash unpause? Is that the command? What's the command? Start? Oh my god, Neurobot. Pause. Resume. Okay. Okay,
There we go.
player. Now it's just...
Now the inspirational music has resumed.
Here's a council meeting. This is so
God.
Anyways, yes. Okay. So I'm playing this. Yeah, you sit around the room, and yeah, and then Lena looks at you and says, "I'll do some." Lena says, "I'm sure you already know, of course. Gavin, Merkin, and Kendall." She points to the dwarf, lizard folk, and cat folk. She said, "You remember? I assume you remember meeting them in the war room."
I nod in response to her question.
Lena then says, "And I'm sure you know Sydney." Who Sydney then smiles at you mischievously, like lol.
My left eye just kind of twitches in response, but I also
Anyways,
nod.
yeah. Anyways, yes. So Sydney was the resistance leader at Corinth City, but of course these are the others. She yeah, she introduces the merfolk, who bows. Lena explains this is so we'll say it's a female merfolk because why not?
All right.
He says, "Oh, this is we'll say her name is Dana." She explains that Dana was the leader of the resistance in Vinley City, which is on the northwest side of the Alliance. And she introduces the dwarf, whose name is, we'll say it's Kirk. She explains that Kirk was the leader of Ostra City in the northeast. And lastly, she introduces it was a female moon elf, and her name, we'll say it's Rosalina. She explains that Rosalina was the leader of the resistance movement in the southeast city of Carson City. They all greet themselves to you, and she says, "All right." So she pulls out a list of papers and explains that she looks at you and tells everyone she's going to explain the general gist of the current state of the Humanoid Alliance after Liza's downfall. She explained that she explains since the death of Liz, his whole government has completely shattered. All levels of bureaucracy have been completely taken out because it was clear they were very over-reliant on Lies. With him gone, there was no one to give them orders, and the resistance, as of now, the resistance has successfully arrested basically every member of his bureaucracy. The military under him has proven a bit more resistant. However, I'd say roughly 60% of the military has been either arrested or submitted to us. And she explains
Wait a minute, I can host the Nuremberg trials. Continue.
She explains that, yes, and multiple other people of importance have been arrested, including Liza's scientists, his economists, his treasurers, and his generals. We're all currently holding them in the central prison in the Middle Inhumania, the same prison they used to arrest the innocent people of the city.
Oh yeah, they've committed so many crimes, I can already feel it.
She explains that in terms of getting rid of Liza's government, she says things are going rather smoothly. We have arrested the people, like it's all going fine. The people are happy with this, and the resistance movement is leading local governments in keeping things afloat while we figure out what to do next. She looks at you and then says, "Now is our first choice." She looks at you and says, "We can either try to bring back the original government that the Alliance had, or she says we can try to basically write a new one."
Okay, so this is the part where I start making my input, right?
Yes.
Alright. Well, considering from what I've heard, the first government type was overthrown, I would consider the logical alternative to be rewriting a new government form.
Lena and a few others nods, and and Rosalina looks and says, "I agree. I think that the other system was very idealistic, and existed only thanks to the prosperity of the country. And the moment we face hard times, extremism like lies took to power." However, I do think that the old system proved to have its merits, and we should try to build off of it and not completely rewrite the system. Kirk seems to agree with this, and the others kind of nod.
Of course, of course.
Hmm. Lena then looks and says, "Okay, well, we can start with we can focus on for now getting a governmental body established." She says that so in the old system, um, each of the towns which represented one of the races, one of the many humanoid subraces, would send a delegate here, represent that they would elect every cup. I believe I read the book every 4 to 8 years they would elect a local official to represent them in the council, and then that council would convene in Humania and discuss issues facing each race. Lena looks and says, "I personally think that it would still be a good idea to keep that representative system where we have each of the towns, for example, things like Dwarftown, Merfolk Town, elect representatives to represent their people and their race, and then them meeting, and then that serving as a sort of cabinet slash council that can express concerns and issues as well as suggest ideas. So that way, because the whole point of the humanoid alliance is to be an alliance amongst the humanoids. So I think we should at the very least stick to that kind of core value."
Okay, so we're gonna be keeping the representation, like the House of Representatives, essentially.
More or less.
Okay. Well, yeah. In that case, I agree with your reasoning. I believe we shall keep the original representation system then.
The others nod and say, "Okay, now it's what to do about the presidency." Lena looks at
Oh
you and
God.
Lena looks at you and explains that, to be honest, the presidency didn't really exist in the old alliance. It served the presidency kind of served as essentially the unifying figure, the figurehead that represented the country. And so he looks at you and explains that we don't. I don't think we should do that again. She says that she thinks that because the presidency was so weak, nothing was able to be done about the subsequent massive drought and famine that happened after the winters. She explains to you that they think the presidency should be more about overseeing the council. That way, politics and decisions can be made more effectively. But she says, however, she isn't really sure about what kind of powers and limitations they should give to said presidency.
Hmm. Well, I believe, from what I've heard, that a check of sorts on both the presidency and the council would be of great interest to us both.
The others nod, and Sydney kind of looks and says, "How about a system where so the people elect the representatives, and the people elect the representatives, obviously. So that's where the people play." And Sydney kind of looks and says, do we want a system where the people as a whole elect the president, or perhaps the council votes on a president?"
I would say that it would be more logical for the people as a whole, in case, on the off chance, the council had a majority coalition of sorts in the inner workings that could choose the president they wanted instead of what would be best for everyone.
Hmm. The others nod. Sydney agrees, and Lena says, "Okay, so as a baseline, the people we'll say that." And then she looks at you and says, "Okay, so what about terms?" Sydney looks at you and says, Lena says, "I think for the benefit of the people not having to worry about electing two officials at a time, I think we should alternate where every maybe 2 to 4 years people vote on a representative, and then the next subsequent election year is electing the president."
I agree with that. I agree with that logic making. Yes.
She says, okay, so how long do we think terms should be? Personally, Lena says, I think that the presidency should be I think the presidency should be a 5-year term, and then maybe we can make the representative terms perhaps also 5 years, and alternate the votes.
So wait, basically the presidency has 5 years, and then what else at 5 years?
So both the representative and the presidency are 5 years. However, the elections are every 2.5 years. So every 2.5 years they vote for a representative, and every 2.5 years they vote for a president. Dana speaks up and says, personally, I don't think that would be the greatest. She says, I think we should do something more like what the Republic of Vasilius does, where the presidency has short 4-year terms with no chance with like no real with so for short 4-year terms, and the representatives have even shorter terms, maybe 2 years. And then I think it'd be better if we did it where every 2 years representatives are elective, and then 2 years after that we elect both president and representative. Dana kind of says she thinks that it would be better, even if it's a bit more pressure on the people, to have more frequent re-elections. Kirk then speaks up and says, personally, he thinks that it would be best if the presidency and the representatives both had 4-year terms, and there were no re-elections, and the amount of representatives and presidents would just get cycled out every 4 years. He said Kirk defends himself by saying he thinks it would be beneficial if the presidency went hand in hand with the council. That way, there would be a closeness could be built between the council and the presidency, and to ensure a more cooperative relationship instead of competitive between the two.
Okay, so what I'm getting from this is that Dana is basically more frequent elections in replacing like the president and the council, while Kirk is the president and the council should be replaced at the same time kind of deal.
Yes, and
Okay.
Lena wants like long elections with intervals in between them.
Okay, okay. At the risk of sounding a bit, how should I say this? Well, personally, I don't think I should have an opinion on this whatsoever in regards to the presidency, but if I absolutely had to pick, then I would go with Lena's model, because while representation is very much important, do not get me wrong on that point, it's also beneficial to have strong leadership that can enact policies in the meantime.
The others nod, and then Lena says, okay, how about a compromise? So she says, so we'll say that a president is, well, for now, we will have a council and a presidency, right? She said, and so how about the current elected council will serve for 2 years. The presidency, you, Athenos, will serve 4 years. And then 2 years into your presidency, we will re-elect a consul. And then 2 years after that, we will re-elect a president. So that way, we have long terms that will ensure that the presidency and the council can make good decisions. We also have alternating terms, and we have long enough years for the presidency and the council to build an actual relationship.
I'm not in agreement with Lena's statement.
The others seem to agree, and you came to a compromise. And then Lena says, all right, next topic is re-elections. How do we think we want to do re-elections, if any, at all? Anastasia is the first to perk up and say, personally, I think that we should allow re-elections for the president, but not re-elections for the representatives. Kirk and Dana seem to agree. Rosalina, um, Rosalina and Kendall both say that they think that they should be re-elections for representatives as well. These are the main two stances people have. Everyone seems to agree that the president should be allowed to run for re-election.
I believe that if public opinion is in favor of it, then the council and representatives should be able to have re-elections as well. Although, what if the number of re-elections is limited? to an extent.
The others nod and say, and they seem to come to an agreement that there should be a maximum of 1 re-election possible.
All right, I'm agreeing with that one too, Athenos's.
The others say, okay. So Lena then says, okay, so I think once the chaos starts to calm down, we can hold up a vote of public opinion to see how they feel about re-electing representatives. So I think that'll put a fork in the issue for now. Everyone kind of nods, and she says, okay, so we have the presidency and the representatives, and the people will elect both. And they have one presidency we now know is at re-election. They have run for alternating 4-year terms. Lena then says, okay, so now, bringing up back the point, you mentioned, Athenos, about checks and balances. Right now, we have a system of how the president and the council gets elected and how they can rerun or how the process will work. However, naturally, like you mentioned, we don't want the presidency becoming something like lies. We don't want the council to become something like multiple lies. And so she says, so does anyone have any ideas of how we can ensure balance between the two?
Okay. Oh. Can I introduce the checks and balances then?
Sure.
Rubs hands. All right. I believe that the council should be the main committee in charge of creating and discussing the legal state of matters, while the presidency can be more focused on just to make sure that no laws are passed that the people would disagree with or that they would not benefit the country. The presidency would be given a veto on specific matters. So that is my opinion on the system of checks and balances. However, just to make sure the president cannot block any policies that would also apply to helping the people, helping the country, we create a third group, a judiciary system, if you will, that would be able to keep the president more so in check.
Lena nods. So you think that the council should be the ones in charge of writing legislation, and the presidency is the one in charge of deciding whether or not said legislation would be good for the people, and then we make a judiciary, as you call it, system where they can decide if the president's decision is a good decision?
Athenos nods.
Says, okay, but if we're going to add a third, so the others look around and they generally seem to agree. However, Anastasia raises her hand and kind of says, I like the idea, she explains. She says, but how do we not end up in a scenario where the council sends a law, the president rejects it, the judiciary approves it, and obviously there has to be another check on the judiciary, because if that was the case, the judiciary and the council could just team up to overwrite the president. And so how would we ensure that we don't end up in a scenario where the president is just constantly vetoing everything given to him, but also the judiciary and the legislature can't just team up to pass whatever they want?
So then we would impose a balance on the judiciary, and we would give this power to the legislative, the council. I'm trying to think of what the term is that the.
Kirk
Can I look this up real quick?
No.
Oh, okay.
Kirk then thinks about it and says, okay, so legislature has a check on the presidency because, so think about it. So say presidency has a check on the legislature by veto their bills. And the judiciary has a check on the president by being able to overturn their vetoes. And so he then thinks and he says, so we should have, Kirk personally says, I think we should establish a check and balance, this check and balance you speak of, Athenos, to every single of the 3 branches applying to one another. So, and the others seem to agree with this.
Okay, coolio. I'll be right back real quick. I gotta go do something in like 5 seconds.
Jamal casually listening to the American government being formed in front of his very fucking eyes. Jamal's gonna arrive and see fucking House of Representatives, the Supreme Court, and the presidency. He's just gonna be like, what the fuck is this?
I'm like, Jared, I'm accusing him of plagiarism.
Jamal's like, this is plagiarism.
I've seen this one before. Where is it?
What is this? America? Almost like not again.
Everybody gangs until he adds the Senate as well. Oh god.
Alright, I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
Anything happened?
No.
Any discussions?
Besi-
Okay.
Besides Jamal like calling you out for plagiarizing.
What do you... Athenos worked for a federal government agency.
You just copied like
Oh, boo-hoo! I didn't make your syndicalist utopia. Now you're getting on my nerves.
bro added 4-year term limits with only one re-election, and I was like, where have I seen this one before?
Actually, it's fine. Your term limit. No, I'm kidding.
Anyways,
Alright, back to
yeah.
politics.
Yeah. So after Kirk explains, they think everyone thinks for a bit, and Sydney speaks up and says, "Well, first, I think the check the legislature should have on the presidency," he explains, is so Sydney explains, how about this? How about the judiciary can decide if so how about this? So if the president vetoes a bill, well, let's make it so the president has to physically explain why he vetoed the bill, right? And then that goes to the judiciary. And if the judiciary thinks that his reason is bullshit, then they can overrule it, and then overrule it, and the bill gets passed anyways. However, if the judiciary believes that his opinion is valid, they will send the bill back to the legislator to reform it. And so I think that would be the best kind of cyclical system for laws. And I think that if I think for the presidency, we can give the legislature maybe 1 to 2 attempts to reform the bill, and if it just never works, then the bill just gets completely stamped down.
I think we are all in agreement here then on that policy.
The others nod, and so Lena's still taking notes, and Lena says, "Okay, so the check the presidency has on the legislature is the veto system. The check the legislature has on the presidency is, we'll say, being able to continue to reform their laws." Then Kirk then speaks up and says, "Actually, I think we should give the legislature another, I guess you could say, check on the presidency." Kirk speaks up and says, "I think something that does need to be discussed is what to do if the president is bad." And so Kirk says, "So I think we should give the legislature the ability to get rid of the president if he is not good." The others think about it for a bit, and Merkin speaks up and says, "I don't hate it. However, I think for someone as important as the president, perhaps we should make it so that both the judiciary and the legislature have to agree." However, Sydney speaks up and says, "Well, wouldn't that just give them more power over the presidency?" And the others start arguing for a bit before Rosalina speaks up and says, okay. How about this? So, how about if the president does something unethical or wrong, breaks the law, then it's up to the legislature can and the judiciary will hold a trial to decide whether the president is guilty. She says, if the president is found guilty of the crimes, then it will go to the legislature, who will then vote on whether the president gets impeached. And then Rosaline kind of explains it that way. It takes a long and strenuous process to get the president outed. However, I think we can, by having a trial, we can ensure that there's no misconduct, because if anything feels off, the people will notice.
Alright, okay, so I think we're all in agreement with the impeachment sort of scenario.
So they think about it and says, okay, so that can be the judiciary and legislative check on the presidency. However, so now we've made the presidency a bit weak, and so they then think about checks they can give the president to enforce on the other two branches.
Hmm.
The others think, and then they say, "How about the judiciary?" And Lena speaks up and then says, "Okay, I think before that, let's decide what exactly we want the judiciary to be." She says that obviously the judiciary should be a system of courts that it helps enforce law. I think the technical aspects of getting courts and hiring judges established in different towns and cities can wait. For now, let's decide what exactly we want the judiciary to be.
The highest legal authority in the Humanoid Alliance.
The others look and kind of nod. They say, um, and so Gavin speaks up and and says, I agree. I think maybe we have like this, similar to the council, this group of maximum authority judges who can take cases and decide, and their opinion is final. And I think that they also, and so yeah, so outside of being a check on the presidency and the legislature, it should also serve as our main way of essentially enforcing the law. And then Lena then speaks up and then says, "But what about?" But with how big the country is and how many races there are, I think having just one central court in the capital will be ineffective. And Lena then speaks up and says, "I think it'd be better to have maybe different levels of court, where you have like the small towns, like for example, like a merfolk town, have smaller courts that require less management, so they can take on the common cases, civic disagreement, loss of damages, maybe like someone stole something petty from a store." And then if cases are bigger, we can establish city courts in the big cities of our towns that have more funding and more money to afford larger, bit more well-known judges and bigger courts. And important cases, whether they're in the towns or in the cities, can get sent there. And then finally, we have like the highest court stationed in Humania that takes on maybe like the cases that maybe extend the whole alliance, possibly.
Yes, I do believe that sounds about what should be held to be, what the standard
Mm-hmm.
should be. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Kirk then speaks up and says, "Well, hold on. I don't dislike the idea," he says. "However, we do need, speaking to checks and balances, what happens if a judge is corrupt, or like say the judge dislikes the defendant, and so therefore rules him guilty even if he wasn't? How do we deal with that?"
Hmm.
Merkin then speaks up and says, "Oh, how about being able to have a retrial, where if you think that your judge or your whatever was faulty in some way, or your trial in general was faulty in some way, you can submit evidence to, let's say, an agency of some sort, perhaps just the judiciary, and they can have you a retrial with a different judge."
I think everybody just like nods at that
Yeah, they
little
do.
suggestion.
They say, "Okay," and then Lena says, "Okay, so how many retrial opportunities do you think people should have?"
I believe that's two at the maximum.
They nod and says, "Okay. Um, how about this actually? You look and Sydney speaks up. He says, "So I think that it wouldn't be a good idea to retrial in the same town." Sydney explains that even though you may have a different judge, with how close knit our communities are when it comes to our towns and cities, it may not be the greatest idea because judges could have opinions that are affected by other judges. Sydney says, "So how about if someone wants a retrial, they get a retrial in a city court? That way, there's no risk of their retrial judge like knowing the other judge they had and just voting because they like the other judge. And then, since you say it's second retrial, if they believe that the city judge also, I don't know, happened to be corrupt and just wanted them out for whatever reason, then it can be taken up to the highest court in Humania, That way, they're getting a truly different court each time that isn't influenced by the local, I guess you could say, judge community.
The eureka moments is Athenos approves of it.
The others agree, and Lena starts writing it all down. She says, okay, so I think we can flesh out that system later. I think that's good. She says, okay, so for this highest level court, she says, obviously I don't think one person should be in power. How many judges do you think we should have for this highest court that is basically a branch of our government? A bunch of people like say numbers. You hear like 6, you hear 4, 8, 10, 12.
I would say 12. Just enough, but then also an even number.
You say 12, and the others, some agree, some vehemently disagree, and then Lena looks and says, okay. She writes down all the numbers and says, since everyone is such disparaging, I'm just gonna take the average, and we'll say that there's gonna be 8. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Some people agree more than others. Some are still of their beliefs, but they concede to the majority anyways. Like, she concede to the compromise anyways. With 8 judges, she says, okay. Lena then says, I think I had an idea. This can be the presidential check on the judiciary. She says, how about the president picks who becomes one of the 8 judges? The others nodded.
Athenos isn't opposed to this. He's fine with this.
Yeah. The others agree, but then then Merkin speaks up and says, well, okay, but then couldn't the president just pick who he likes, and then the judiciary, and then he could just veto all bills because he'd be friends with the judiciary? So everyone thinks about it, and then Rosalina then speaks and says, okay, so what if the president picks the judges, but the legislator has to approve them? The others all murmur in agreement, saying that's a good idea. Then that gives the legislature checks over the presidency and the Supreme Court. There's nod, and Selena says, okay, so if we're all in agreement here, this highest court, we should probably give it a name, which we can worry about that later. She said the highest court will have 8 judges. These judges are picked by the presidency, but confirmed by the legislature. And she said, okay, so now the question is, how do we want to go about terms, if any, for these judges? The others think about it and think that, and the first person to speak up is Gavin, who says, well, personally, I think that the terms should be long. He says, because I think that if you give these judges short terms, they won't think as unbiasedly and perhaps think to their current. He says, well, I think that maybe 8 years. The others think about it and say that they all seem to agree that they should be cycling out judges, because they all agree that naturally, if you having judges on a council until the day they die is stupid and would cause a lot of corruption and issues, because if they're not able to be swapped out, ideas will never change, and new policy will never be put into place, which might lead to some unjust legal
stagnation and all that.
Yeah.
By the way, I just also want to throw out, while we're just subtly dissing the Supreme Court system, I would just like to throw out there that, considering how long lifespans are in this world, that would also be double bad.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think that should also be taken into account. But yeah, let's go with 8-9 years. Oh shit.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. You all agree to term limits, and Lena kind of looks and says, okay, I think 8 years works. She writes down and says, and so they decide that, however, before she writes it down, Kendall speaks up and says, well, actually, I think maybe we should make it 12, she explains. She says that because I think that, if you think about it, the process to the process of justice at this highest level is likely to be pretty long, and the highest level cases that are brought to this court are likely to be very complicated. She explains that unlike lower level cases like petty theft, which can be handled easily, I think that cases taken to this highest level court would be very rather complicated, she says, and I think that in some cases maybe these cases could take even years to resolve. And she says, and so to avoid that even more, so she says, I think we should increase the term limit to 3 times the presidency term limit to ensure that that these justices are given time to work things out.
Alright, that sounds... I think Athenos agrees with that one too, just like thinking over
Dana
it.
then speaks up and says, well, in that case, I think we should also make it to where only half the court is swapped out every 6 years. So the 12-year term limits are intervals, and so every 6 years half the court is switched. That way, if we have a case that happens to land on their 12th year, there isn't going to be like a completely new court that comes in and like just doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
I would agree with this.
They just agree, and so they set term limits, and they all generally kind of agree to no re-election since there's no really electing them. It's just the president's decision. He says, okay. Lena says, okay, let's go over. So we decided on 3 branches: the council, which is elected by the people; the president, which is elected by the people; the judiciary, which is picked by the president. And they think, and they say, okay, so the president's check on the judiciary is that he gets to pick the judges. The president's check on the legislature is that he can veto their bills. The legislature's check on the presidency is that they can rewrite his bills and are a part of the impeachment process. And their check on the judiciary, I think that's the one thing we haven't decided yet. Actually, no, sorry, the check on the judiciary is they have to approve judges. Then the judiciary's check on the presidency is being able to start the process of impeachment, and as well as decide whether their vetoes are valid or not. And their check on the legislature, I think, is the one thing we haven't decided yet.
We have not gone over that one yet, no.
She says, okay, so let's see, how can we give the judiciary a check on the legislature? Everyone thinks for a while, for a bit. I'm trying to come up with something, and Kirk speaks up and says, okay, so what about in the same way that the judiciary can decide whether or not a veto is good or not, what if the judiciary can also decide whether a law or a bill is good or not? And so that way, if say the law that the legislature is trying to patch is not, like, as you say, ethical, they can just outright get rid of it completely.
Very well, so if it were to get to the president, then the Supreme Court would have to have gone through it and read it and made sure that it is up to standard.
Yeah, they all agree, and then they says, okay, but what about... But then suddenly Dana speaks up and says, well, actually, if we're going to make it to where they can impeach... if both the president can veto legislation and the judiciary can declare laws... can make laws and bills void as well. And she said, I think it'd be better if we give the legislature the ability to not only impeach the president, but also impeach the judges. That way, and so unlike impeaching the president requires going through both the judiciary and the legislature, but I think we can make it toward the legislature if they decide, if they decide that a judge is being corrupt, they can start the process to impeach a judge, and then it's sent to the president, who can... No, Dana says. I think we should just make it to where if the legislature decides to impeach a judge, if they can get a majority vote, it can be impeached. The others seem hesitant with this, but Dana says, I know it sounds like we're giving the legislature too much power to impeach the judges. He says, however, if you think about it, with how much control the presidency and the judiciary have over the main purpose of the council, I think it would serve as a benefit to dissuade the judiciary from trying to just stop the legislature from doing anything to give them the ability to just impeach them by themselves.
I think everyone would be in agreement with that one, yes.
Mostly they agree. Some people protest a bit, saying that it seems like they're not sure. However, however, they also concede, Lena saying that they agree that in this early stage of creating this new government, it's really hard to decide if whatever will work. So with this down, Lena basically said, okay, I think this is a good model for now. She says, so once again going over, she repeats the official plan they have. She says, okay, so the legislature is a council built up of representatives from every one of the races in the Humanoid Alliance. They exist to pass laws and to create bills that will benefit the country. The presidency is also elected by the people. Both representatives and the presidents have 4-year alternating terms every 2 years, she explains. The presidency's point is to represent the people and to oversee the country, as well as oversee the country. She says it's basically he is the representative of the people. The judiciary is going to be split into 3 systems: this town level, city level, and we'll say capital level for now. Cases. What the fuck, bro? Are you in a thunderstorm right now?
Yes, I am actually.
Yeah, I can.
Let me look outside real quick.
I can really hear it.
Oh yeah, Matt, my god, it is pouring outside, Jesus.
Yeah, I could hear the thunder through your mic.
Poseidon came after you,
Bro,
man. He's
literally.
on a run.
I was trying to speak it, I just heard I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, sorry about that. I can mute while it's going on if you want.
Yeah, I don't really care. It just sounds a bit odd.
Don't worry. Listen, I promise. The gods support the Humanoid Alliance. Trust me.
He says.
They're so in agreement right now that they're interrupting you. They're like, yes.
Yeah. Anyways, yes. How long is this actually? Let me check. It's only 2 minutes and 31. That's why. See if I can find something that sounds better. Anyways, yeah. So the judiciary will have 3 levels of court: the local level at the city, the towns, the city level, and the capital level. Small, minor town level crimes will be taken to the town courts. Bigger crimes will be taken to the city courts, and crime and things that affect the entire nation will be taken to the highest level court. People who will go to the town courts can appeal to the city courts, who can then appeal. They can then appeal to the highest court, and that court's decision is final. I think we can agree that if you're in the city court, you can appeal to a different city court, and then the highest level court. Everyone agrees that, okay. Then in the judiciary, we have 8 judges that serve 12 years, with half of them getting shuffled out every 6 years. So we have alternating there as well. She says, and their job is to decide which laws are good, which laws are not, as well as determine high-level cases. She says, and the checks I think we should have is that the checks should be so the presidency can veto laws on legislature and nominate court justices. The legislature can rewrite bills and that can get around vetoes, impeach the president, and they can also impeach justices. The the courts can start the process of impeaching a president and can declare vetoes false. And then it can also as for the legislature, they can decide whether their laws and decisions are also wrong. She begins writing all of this down, and she produces basically a multi-page document, and she basically lays it out and says, so this is going to be the basis for our government, she explains. Everyone reads the papers over, and they all agree. Once everyone agrees, she compiles the papers together and agrees that this is going to be their quote constitution. She puts it all together and puts it away for now. She says, okay, so I think for now, that is a good system to start with. She says, so now I think we should turn to the issue of the people. She explains that under Liza's government, the people were essentially just forced to do whatever he wanted. He took away anything that dissented against him, killed anyone who disagreed with him, and made it to where only state-approved propaganda could be would be allowed in the city, allowed in the country. He looks at everyone and says, "I think to ensure that the people are never abused and mistreated like this again, we should establish some kind of like guaranteed protections for the people that just like."
I have an idea, if I may be able to propose to the people.
The others listen.
What if we, when writing this constitution, we add a bill of rights of sorts that lists the rights that every citizen in the Humanoid Alliance has.
Yeah, there's agree and nod and say, Lena says, I like that. So what kind of things do we want on this? The first person to speak up is we'll say, first person to speak up is Dana. He says, well, I think the first point on this quote Bill of Rights should be that every person, I think we should do like every race is equal, and no one humanoid race is above the other, and that every race in this country should be allowed equal access and equal rights to
equal opportunities.
Yes, she says, and yes. So basically, guaranteed equal rights for all races.
Athanos just nods.
Mm-hmm.
When in the course of human events. Listen, Jamal, it's not copying if we're the first to do it in this world.
Got you there.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be part of the group responsible for this new government model, actually. How does that make you feel? Quote unquote new, by the way.
Bill of Rights. Okay, so Lena writes down, so the first point in the Bill of Rights is that all people, regardless of race, have equal rights and access to he's trying to think of a good way to summarize it. Equal rights and access to so she cuts it out and says equal rights and equal opportunity. Okay, so she writes that down and says, all right, second point. They think about it and say, they think about a second point to the Bill of Rights.
All races have the right to speak freely.
They all nod. She says the right. All citizens have the right to express their opinions without legal consequence. However, someone speaks up, and however, Rosalina speaks up and says, okay, well, what if their opinion is used to incite violence or other consequences? They just think about it and say that they can have, they think that they should have parts in the, and then following, Rosalina speaks up and says, I don't disagree with it. However, I think that we should probably add a second part to the Constitution, if so, that establishes like core laws, you could say, like core values that cannot be overturned, whilst laws that the legislature wants to pass can be vetoed, they can be reformed, they can be discussed. We should have absolute laws in the Constitution that ensure that even if someone in the government is corrupt, that we can always rely on those.
So a group of core principles that cannot be upturned by any branch of the government.
The others, yeah, she nods.
I think Zeus agrees with that one too, honestly.
Uh-huh. they think this. Okay, so first, all people, regardless of race, have equal rights and equal opportunities. 2, all citizens have right to express their opinions without legal consequence. They think about it and say, what else?
For the right to bear arms. No, I'm kidding. Wait, my texting is showing.
They think about it and says, and then Kirk sits up and says, how about the right? How about it says all citizens have the right to privacy and protection within their homes. He references how the wristbands would basically give lies complete control and overseeing over all the people, no matter where they were, and this could be a good way to avoid that.
Then phrase it as the right to privacy in private property.
The right to privacy and protection within public and private spaces. To continue thinking and Merkin speaks up about the issue about lies and his government falsely accusing people. And so they think they should say all citizens have the right to all citizens have a right to a fair trial.
I think there's no question on that one.
All citizens have the right to a fair and unbiased trial.
Oh god, I'm not being socialist and left-leaning enough for Jamal. Oh no.
The right to a fair and unbiased. They think more than think. They say, and then Dana then speaks up and Kendall speaks up and says, I like that, but how about we add to the judiciary system that it's not just a judge overseeing the branches, but it's also however it's also a jury that oversees it as well.
A jury of their peers, one might say.
Mm-hmm. They all agree and say, so they changed the Fourth Amendment to the Bill of Rights to the right to fair and unbiased trial with a jury of their peers. The others nod and they continue to think. Suddenly, and then Gavin speaks up and says that they should add something that protects criminals, because he says that people arrested in the Human Alliance were tortured and treated horribly by Liza's government.
Okay, so I'm guessing this would be the right to. I'm trying to think of the name. Fuck. The amendments.
So they think about it. So Lena then kind of, after a bit of discussion, you sketch it as the right to no one, regardless of crime, should be subjected to cruel and unusual punishment. Punishment. Think about it more when suddenly the idea of religion pops up, and they think about it, and Sydney speaks up and says, well, ever since lies took over, the main dominant faith in Castriel, Paxillism, has been basically completely oppressed. So Sydney says, well, what if we add an amendment in the Bill of Rights that basically says that you can't be persecuted because of your religion?
The right to freedom of worship, I would imagine.
They all agree, and they say, and they add to the Sixth Amendment the right to freely worship whomever you choose. And then so they continue to think and think about if there's any other rights that should be established. They also note the after discussion, they also add Seventh Amendment, the right to peacefully protest against unjust policies, and this stemmed from a discussion from your discussion regarding Liza's constant suppression of anyone who went against him.
Yeah, seems about right for that one.
Yeah. You further think about it and think about any other possible amendments they could implement regarding rights. You think for a while, however, nothing particularly comes to mind.
I mean, yeah, we don't particularly need like an amendment for slavery or anything, I would hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You think about it and decide to add one more to the Bill of Rights that says, that they think about it and just think how everyone thinks they want to have one more. They're just not quite sure what it should be. What about
We're on the ninth, right? The ninth
eighth
amendment?
one?
Or eighth, okay.
Then suddenly, we'll say Kendall speaks up and says, "How about to ensure that there are no loopholes? The Eighth Amendment could be, all people have people have rights that are not directly listed in the Constitution, to just cover all their bases."
Okay, yeah, I think everybody would agree with that. So.
You can say the right, all citizens have additional rights not directly listed in the Bill of Rights or Constitution. With those written down, they agreed that you agree that this is a good Bill of Rights for now. They then move on to this idea of amendments.
Joy. Everybody loves the amendments.
Mm-hmm. They think about it and decide they decide that to let out the amendments. Mm-hmm. They think. Mm-hmm. So, Sydney then pulls out the Constitution and decides that and asks, "What shall we do for the amendments?" Sydney immediately chirps up and says, "I think the First Amendment should be that the Bill of Rights is absolute, and the rights of the citizens must always be protected by the government."
Yes, okay, so the First Amendment then, in that case, is simply that the original rights listed in the Constitution are unchangeable.
The First Amendment to the Constitution is end up being the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, the rights established by the Bill of Rights are absolute, and it is the responsibility of the government to enforce said rights. You think more to it. You think more about some other amendments you can add, and other amendments to add. Yeah.
Son of the sages is delicious chocolate milk.
How about they think to anything else they can add? How about suddenly Rosalina speaks up and says, how about an amendment that states that the people can always expect the government to be fair and unbiased, and if not, if not, then they they are. What if that's just the amendment? She says. How about just the amendment that all citizens should expect that the government always act in their best interests, and as well as unbiasedly and fairly.
And I'm guessing failing that, then that's like the right to fight against that system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Suddenly, Kirk brings up, I think we should have an amendment about citizenship, specifically. He says that he thinks that there should be, the Third Amendment should be, anyone born within the borders of the Humanoid Alliance is a citizen of the Alliance, and anyone who wishes to become a citizen has to go through. Everyone kind of agrees, and the Third Amendment becomes anyone born within the borders of the Humanoid Alliance will be recognized as citizens and be afforded the same rights as anyone else. Furthermore, regardless of citizenship status, anyone living within the borders of the Humanoid Alliance will be treated to the same rights as official citizens.
Nice, let's go.
They continue to think about any other issues that may be arised. Sydney then speaks up and says, not something we should add to the amendments, however, something I think we should add to the Bill of Rights. She says that she thinks that they should add another part of the Bill of Rights that says, all people have the right to have their vote counted. Everyone seems to agree, and the new Eighth Amendment to the Bill of Rights becomes the right to have your vote properly represented in elections.
No voter fraud. Woo! Let's go.
They think about it more, and they think about any other amendments, and then they all look at you and kind of ask if you have anything else you'd like to add to the Constitution.
Let's see. How about the right to be protected from forced or harsh labor?
They all agree. And so, the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution becomes, no one shall be subjected to unfair work and or an unsafe work environment. All people should expect to be treated like people within their workplace, and failure to comply will result in consequences for the employer.
Let's go.
They try to think of more amendments. Someone then chirps up and says, do you think we should have a voting age?
Yes, that would probably be a good idea.
So everyone thinks that... So Sydney speaks up and says, okay, well, that's going to be a bit of an issue. So because they think about it and says, because how he says because aging between certain races is slower. How do we want to go about voting age?
Isn't the solution obvious? Set voting ages for specific races that overall add up to one group number.
The others agree, and say that so they should decide that. So they say that obviously the creatures that live that have about 100-year lifespan, including humans, dwarves, halflings, beast folk, lizard folk, merfolk, and giants, should all have the same voting age. Someone chirps up and says the voting age I think should be 20 in that case, as it's right around when people start college. Someone says it should be 18, some say 21, some say 16.
I think that 21 is a good voting age, you know?
You personally say 21, and kind of as a compromise,
old enough to drink, old enough to vote.
I mean, you don't know. Who said there was drinking laws established here?
Oh God, is that going to be a part of my job, or?
Well, yeah. So with a compromise, Lena says that they think that the legal age to vote should be 20, and so the amendment say so. Members of the human, dwarf, halfling, beast folk, lizard folk, merfolk, halfling, beast folk, lizard folk, merfolk, and giant race. And giant races are allowed the right to vote at the age of 20. Meanwhile, elves are allowed the right to vote at the age of, and Lena speaks up and says, well, 1 elf year is about 5 human years, so they say just 100.
Athenos nods his head with that then.
The elves are allowed to vote at the age of 100. However, someone chirps up and says that although that makes sense, someone notes that if we're running election years and election time and term limits based on the human scale of lifetime, Sydney says I don't think it'd be a good idea to make the voting age for elves so high. The others agree, but they can't really think of a solution because the elves, a 100-year-old elf is about as mature as a 20-year-old human. They note that it takes elves a while to grow. Actually, is that even true? I honestly fucking forget. Let me check. If that isn't true, then they reach maturity at the same age as humans. Never mind. I'm dumb. This was not an issue. I'm just stupid.
All right. Well, I guess you don't have any problems with the voting age then.
So anyway, Amendment 5 has changed to all citizens of the humanoid alliance are allowed to vote. Are allowed the right to vote at the age of 20. Okay.
Let's go.
I like the notion, by the way, that the 18 years in America was took until the 26th Amendment in 71, which I find very funny.
We could send them to Vietnam, but not to vote.
I mean, yeah, I can send you to Vietnam. I'm your president. Wait a minute.
You spend a while thinking about more amendments, and Lena speaks up and says, "Okay, I think this is good for now." She says, "However, I think we should also make a system to where obviously more amendments can be added to the Constitution." Any ideas how we want that to work? She says.
I believe that amendments to the Constitution can be decided by both the judiciary and the okay, hold on. I'm trying to think. Would discussing amendments, where would that go? Judiciary, or would it be legal and go to legislative?
Up to you.
Or I could also just say executive, because the president hasn't been getting many other things for going for him lately. You know what? Althano suggests the executive branch can look at new amendments, and then I guess either the judiciary or the legislative branch will be able to review any decisions on that.
Yeah. Some people seem to agree. However, we'll say Merkin speaks up and says, "I actually think we should reverse it. That the legislature should be allowed to decide on a proposed amendment." He says he thinks that the legislature can propose an amendment, and they have to all agree on it. Well, at least a large majority has to agree on it, and then it is sent to the presidency, who can decide whether or not. I think then it's sent to the judiciary, who decides whether it's constitutional or not, and then the presidency can decide whether it wants to be implemented or not. Merkin says that he thinks because the amendment is so important that they should make it to where it takes the approval of all three groups to get it passed.
I think, yeah, that sounds just about right. Goldilocks just about right for this scenario.
They agree and write that down in the Constitution. Lena then asks, "Okay, so if we have a representative from each race, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. So you said the legislature will be 8 people total." She then asks, "How many people do you think have to agree in order for an amendment to be sent to the judiciary?"
I would say 3/4 total of the legislative. Yeah, don't worry, Alpus. We're just rewriting America, basically. The Humanoid Alliance, of course.
Start a war. Start a war. No, I'm joking.
The attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed.
Anyways, yeah. So 3/4 legislature, and then Lena then asks, "Okay, how much of the judiciary do we think needs to agree for the amendment to continue further? Just 3/4 as well?"
I would say so.
You all agree, and yes. Lastly, the president must agree on the amendment for it to be passed. So you all agree on that and write that down. It also says that speaking to numbers, Lena then asks, "How many legislatures do you think it should take to impeach a justice?"
Ooh, okay, this is gonna be a tough one. This is. Is 66% too low?
It's also not technically 66 would just be 5 roughly.
Yeah, roughly 5, I guess. I suppose that like, yeah, I guess like 5 legislators to impeach a justice or so would work.
5 out of 8 representatives is representative approval is required to impeach a justice. Lena then asks, what about impeaching a president? Just because impeaching the president is a lot more of a serious thing. So I think that we should probably have a requirement of more. She says, so how many justices do you think it should take to start the impeachment process?
So there are 12 total justices.
8.
And I believe 8 total justices?
Yes, we said 8.
Okay. The numbers are getting wild, but anyways, let's see. 8 total justices, so let's say. I would say half the justices will need to be in agreement that, like Athenos would say that half the justices would be in agreement.
Most people think that it's too low. Some people agree with you, but a majority of the people say that they think it's a bit too low. And they think that they should go with 3/4, like they did with the amendment process.
Yeah, fair enough. Alright. Let's go even more protection, Pog.
3/4 of justices must agree to begin the impeachment process. Then they ask okay, what percent of the legislature should it take to get the president impeached? How many have to agree on it?
Well, if we're going on the same premises as the amendment process, then 3/4 as well.
Everyone agrees, yeah. 3/4 of representatives must agree to impeach the president.
I remember Athenos Dread famously going, I love democracy.
Literally. Okay, with that, you decide that that's good. And now, yeah. Alright, with all this finally established, you all agree that this is a very good, strong baseline. You think that this is a good way to start, and that for now, this governmental body will work. Lena then looks at you and says that once that everything is settled down, they will begin to hold elections for representatives, and once the legislature and judiciary are established, they can really get down to fixing all the problems within the alliance.
Athenos is just nodding and just listening in agreement.
Everyone seems to agree, and for now, Lena adjourns the meeting. Everyone continues to talk amongst each other, and Lena kind of comes up to you and says that she was surprised how many really great ideas for this new government you had. She then looks at you and asks, "Are you sure you haven't done this before?"
Just like Athenos just has like a little bit of flashback to just working underneath the U.S. government, and then just going back to reality, he replies to Lena, "I had an idea or two, I will admit, a little bit of experience."
She smiles and says, "Well, I'm glad that experience is helping you here."
It wasn't much, though.
She laughs and says, "Well, She says, "Well, thanks to you, this is going a lot more swimmingly than I thought it would." She says that she thinks the system they've established for now looks really good. She said for now they just have to start quelling the chaos throughout the alliance. He says that for now, there really isn't much he has to do besides, look good to the people, she says.
So I'm still a bit of a figurehead, no?
She laughs and says, "Yeah, not for long, though." She looks at you and then says, "A contract for now. I would become more familiar with the Alliance in the capital city. I will inform you in a few days once the chaos has been quelled and when we can start having elections. For now, I think after all you've done, I think you maybe take a few days for a break." She smiles.
The concept of a break being slightly foreign to Athenos, but he agrees nonetheless, just to keep things going.
Reluctantly, you agree to take a bit of a break, and she says, well, she has to get going to organizing the resistance and fighting things out. Meanwhile, you're free to do whatever you feel like, she says. And with that, she leaves the room.
Let's go. And so it begins. The president gets to explore and have fun in this fucking. I'm not gonna go out to a restaurant and get like a singular lamb chop and water now. Let's go.
You don't
We can
say.
have culture. Finally. This is revolutionary, Connor. It's insane. Okay, so I'm guessing I get to be able to explore the new and improved capital now, I imagine. Yes, it will. That's one day, Jamal. One day. Okay, so I guess I suppose Athenos would be. Athenos would want to learn up more about the Humanoid Alliance. You know, let's familiarize ourselves with like the government of its past and all that, like before lies. You know.
And how will you do that?
Heading to, let's head to the library. Let's be a bookworm for a little bit. See what's up. So yeah, I guess Athenos goes to the library and he tries to, actually read up on non-censored history. This time, yeah.
Return to the library. You leave your office and you exit and once again fly into the Human Alliance. Unlike the atmosphere even though it's only been a day, the atmosphere in the Alliance has already massively changed. The people are walking around freely, smiling. Kids are playing. The end of Liza's regime is already showing strides in the Alliance. As you fly above...
Oh yeah, I imagine some of the bracelets are starting to get removed too.
Yeah. As you smile, the people noticing you look up and wave at you.
I just like awkwardly wave back.
You continue to fly across, eventually reaching the library.
Alright.
You enter inside, and the atmosphere has completely changed. Although the shelves aren't completely stocked yet, like you hoped they would be, there are many resistance members and other volunteers helping to restock the shelves. Librarian you met, who was once like cold and didn't really want to get involved with you, kind of runs up to you with like a new shine in her eyes. She bows to you slightly and says, President Dredd, what may I ask, what brings you here today?
I'm just like, I'm taken a bit off topic by the just fucking fervor, and in response I just go, please just call me Athenos, and I am here because last time I checked I wish to learn more about the Humanoid Alliance, and unfortunately there wasn't much in stock, so perhaps things have changed.
She smiles and says, yes, ever since you defeated and overthrew lies, we've been able to put some of the actual books back on the shelf. Unfortunately, it's still not up to what it used to be, but I'm sure, I hope that maybe you can now find what you're looking for. May I ask exactly what you're interested in?
A look on the previous democratic regime before lies.
She nods and says, of course, sir. Just over, she points over the left side of the room and says that they recently put those books back on the shelf, and then over there is where they should be.
I thank her for her work and just head on over.
She bows once again and says, "Please don't mention it, Mr. President." And we're still refusing to call you Athenos. You assume that you're not gonna get that out of many people.
Oh joy.
You head over to where she was pointing, and after just a few seconds of scrolling, you find the book she was referring to. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get something to drink.
Already. So how does this make you feel, Jamal? Out of curiosity. How are you doing, man? What's good?
Hola. Wait, so is okay. From my understanding, you guys like made the Constitution, right? Or
Yes.
whatever. And then like you just went on the street.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm on my break day, man. You know, we got back from the government building, fucking putting in work. Now here I
I
am.
guess.
We got the new policies in the Humanoid Alliance Athenos parentheses document. Parentheses Athenos document, I would guess. But yes, we have stuff. Already it's starting to look better than your little lies shit, I will say.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if it didn't, I'd be worried. I literally wrote it as the most dystopian society I could come up with, using like what I have. Like, I can't use cameras or surveillance because it's for that.
Yeah.
And this is like I did it better.
Let's go. Listen, we're bringing America back from Nazi Germany, okay?
Yeah, basically.
Better America, might I add.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Lore.
Yes, lore. We need lore.
Okay, yeah. You find the book she was talking about the previous Humanoid Alliance's democratic government.
I can't wait for the people back at the giant town to just hear like, damn, you know that guy who stayed at the tavern for a little bit?
You know
Yeah,
that
he's
guy,
president now.
yeah, you know that guy.
He's the president now. But yeah, let's do some reading. Let's pull a page out of Jamal's book, if you know what I mean.
You decide to read about the original Humanoid Alliance's government. The government read is basically that the Humanoid Alliance was made to be a democratic council that could represent the needs and wants of each humanoid race living in it. The council was made up of one representative from each humanoid race. They would convene once a month to decide policy and future decisions that would involve the entire country or individual towns and cities. Each city was run by a democratically elected mayor, who oversaw the election of local lords to each town. Each city also had direct jurisdiction over local villages as well. These leaders were required to ensure that the needs of every humanoid race living within their local territory were met, and would be severely punished by the council if they failed to comply. Under this system, with council members being elected every 2 years, the Humanoid Alliance would be one of the few humanoid countries besides the elven ones that prospered during the Monster Age. Due to the nature of the Humanoid Alliance, they never wanted to have any kind of leader, even a constitutional one with little to no power. The reason for this is that what a country entirely based around bringing together the needs and wants of multiple races, having a single race represent the country wouldn't look good. The system would continue for the entire development age and would be by far the most successful form of democracy seen anywhere in Althvinhaim. The reason, the fact this system would be so successful that it would last most of the Imperial Age. The main reason for this is that the council and the country as a whole was connected through religion. The country was built around Paxillism, and it was the one thing that all humanoids living in the Alliance had in common. Through Paxillism and Fiona, the Alliance was able to remain as tight as glue for over 1,000 years.
Let's go. I'm sure nothing bad would happen to this, right? So you did prosperity and peace? Yeah. Surely nothing would come to change this age, right?
Yeah,
like that would be crazy.
No. It certainly wouldn't be some weird and edgy teenager from Virginia deciding that he wanted a super hyper racist neo-fascist fucking government. to and then simp over the leader because he wears black and red.
Yeah, Jamal just wanted like edgy Torbjorn in charge.
No.
There's no.
No, no, an emo Torb in charge.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you
You
did.
objectively
What?
did.
Dude, I stepped into his office and his chair was too big for him. Like what? What do you mean? Hello?
After reading the book, you kind of note that the point about having mayors and local like administrations overseeing the cities and towns, and it kind of reminds you of the U.S. Federalist system, and you think it might not be a terrible idea to discuss that, at least discuss it with Lena and the others.
What you're saying is Athenos is about to canonically become a Federalist.
Yes.
Is that? Let's go! I mean, you know, I'm unbiased to any political parties as president of the Humanoid Alliance. You know, it would be beneath me to support another party. So yeah, okay, putting that down. All right, we got some new ideas. A federalist administration of sorts, perhaps in the works. That could be a good idea. What else? Oh yeah, you know, they did mention that Paxilsm thing. It sounds kind of interesting. You know, let's. I've heard it in passing. Let's look up on that in the religion section, not mythology. Anyways.
Yeah, I could imagine like calling it mythology. Could you imagine that? Calling like a real, intangible, physical, proven god.
That look, that you know, look. You can call it mythology, you know.
No.
It's
No, you can't.
Objectively, you can't. You head over to the religion section. Decided to check out this Paxilism we've heard a lot about. You find the book on Paxilism. It reads, "Religion can be found in every continent in Althvinhaim, each continent having a dominating faith. In Kestriel, the dominant faith is Paxilism." I also like how you haven't been taking notes like since we started.
No, don't worry. When I read the video, I will make the most thorough notes that you've ever seen.
You also just write them down like
a normal person?
Yeah.
I'm not a normal person.
Also, considering these are your memories, I don't think we should be allowed to go back and re-watch the video. Admittedly.
Okay, how about this? After I rewatch the video for this session, I will go back to doing it as in like
yeah.
I will
Okay,
write
you get this one chance, but yeah, no, you shouldn't be allowed to do that because it's your memory.
Is this standard going to be applied for like everyone in the future then? Okay, cool.
Anyways.
All right.
Yeah, Paxilism is a newer faith that worships the goddess of peace, Fiona.
Okay.
The religion was formed by non-human and non-elven humanoids living in Kestriel. When missionaries from the Republic of Vasilius visited Kestriel, they brought with them the Dolcum and the Vitidist faith. However, because Kestriel was located so far from Althvinhaim, the goddess of life, Tia, couldn't monitor both at once all the time, so she made a deal with Fiona to watch over her followers in Kestriel. This would lead to an eventual split in the faith between Vitidist and Paxilism. Paxilism is incredibly common in Kestriel, and about 80% of the humanoid population living there believes it. Like Vitidists, Paxilists believe in peace and cooperation and dislike violence. However, unlike the Vitidists, Paxilists believe that violence isn't necessarily a bad thing and can be used for good in protecting those less fortunate than others, with some taking this belief more extreme than others. Most of Paxilism's religious culture practices stem from Vitidists. However, they've slowly developed their own identity separate from their forefathers. The leader of Paxilism is known as the Hewa Icon. The Hewa Icon lives on the southeastern island of Monster Island, beyond the Orc Forest. There, a rudimentary cathedral stands tall and proud. The Hewa Icon changes whenever the previous one dies, and a devout member of Paxilism may attempt to take up the mantle regardless of race. The Hewa Icon possesses the unique skill Peacemaker. This skill allows the Hewa Icon to imbue peace and happiness into whomever they desire, and allows them to communicate with Fiona. The Hewa Icon also has multiple lesser lords that serve them. The lesser lords are each representatives for a humanoid race and provide insight into the ongoings of each humanoid race in Kestriel. This allows the Hewa Icon to be informed and make decisions regarding Paxilism and its future. The Paxilists actually share a holy text with the Vitidists. The Dolcum is also the holy text for Paxilists, however it has been slightly rewritten. Paxilists kept the story of Guilliman and Roussel, but chose to leave out aspects of Vitidists that happened after the arrival of the initial missionaries to Castriel. They also keep many of the core principles of Tia, but edit them to more fit the worldview as well as the ideals of Fiona. However, for the most part, the Dolcum between the two faiths remains incredibly similar, and the two sects share very close and good relations with one another. The Paxilist Dolcum also includes the stories of the original missionaries as well as the development of Paxilism in Castriel, whereas the Vitidist Dolcum does not. The story of Paxilism begins in the northern shores of the Monster Plains. Missionaries from Basilius arrived there in the late 800s. There's a parentheses there that says human calendar. There they would meet the other humanoids and monsters and begin communicating with them, trading goods and exchanging cultures. The missionaries would eventually set up a permanent town on the northern coast and get translators to help them understand each other. The missionaries and the humanoids got along quite well. They both recognized each other as similar beings. Actually, I'm gonna cut this part out. I'm not gonna make them speak different languages. I don't. I think I changed that anyways. So cut out the part about the different languages. The missionaries and the humanoids got along quite well. They both recognized each other as similar beings, both created by the same god of which they all worshipped. In fact, it was because of the fact that the missionaries worshipped Daedalus, as well that the humanoids were so willing to listen to their preaching. In fact, it was because of the fact that the missionaries worshipped Daedalus as well that the humanoids were so willing to listen to the preaching of Vitidist. Over the course of the next 100 years, the words of Tia would spread across the continent to all sentient races. Many humanoids decided to take on this faith and wanted the protection of Tia from the many monsters that inhabited Castriel. Others, mostly non-humanoids, chose to reject the faith because of its pacifist beliefs. Regardless, Vitidist would quickly spread across Castriel, bringing many into Tia's fold. The shift from Vitidist to Paxilism would occur over the early centuries of the Monster Age. As the amount of aggressive and dangerous creatures in the world began to increase, the Vitidists in Castriel, already so far from where Tia normally is, found themselves in a rock and a hard place. They wanted to practice the absolute pacifism preached by Tia, but how could they when they were getting assaulted by monsters almost daily? It'll be around this time that a man named Kenji Rawa, a fox folk from the Southern tribe, would rise up and take a stand. They would personally sail to the Rinlight Temple and meet with Tia to discuss the issue. This is when Tia would decide to send Fiona in her stead to help her followers in Castriel. Kenji would be granted the unique skill Peacemaker and become the first Heiwa icon. Kenji would return to Fiona to Castriel, and this would be when the Vitidists in Castriel would fully shift to Paxilism. With Fiona taking a very direct involvement in the faith in Castriel, many began to want to worship her over Tia. Furthermore, she had also told her followers that it was okay to use defensive violence to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your homes. Her ideas quickly caught on, and within a few decades of Fiona coming to Castriel, the switch from Vitidist to Paxilism had fully occurred. After the end of the Monster Age, Paxilism would continue to thrive in all corners of Castriel, mainly because Fiona was always directly involved with the faith and ensuring the prosperity of her followers. Despite this, however, some still remained very aggressive towards Paxilist. The Humanoid Alliance in particular completely rejected Paxilism. Before the dictatorship took over, the Alliance was very friendly towards Paxilists and had many temples and churches within their walls. However, after the dictatorship took over, the Alliance began to reject religion and destroy the religious buildings throughout the country. Ever since then, the Paxilists and Heiwa Icon have taken a very aggressive stance against the current rule in the Humanoid Alliance. They wish to see the current dictatorship overthrown and the original democratic government put back in place. To this end, the Heiwa Icon has been attempting to negotiate an alliance with the Dragon Covenant to eliminate the current dictatorship. However, the Dragon Covenant wants to see the whole nation raised, whilst the Paxilists only want the government gone. Reading that line, definitely,
Okay. Well, hey, I'm a Dragonoid like you guys, you know, I like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they wouldn't be so aggressive now that I'm in charge, right?
Yeah. Paxilism shares many similarities to Vitidist, including their holy day of worship, which is on Lufande. On this day, many Paxilists will attend their local church to hear the preaching of Fiona. Although Paxilism is centered around Fiona's beliefs, that's spelled wrong. Fiona's beliefs, Paxilists are still taught the words of Tia and Guilliman. Albeit the story of Guilliman they tell is a much more historical recount and less of a religious one, which is why the burning of Guilliman is not tolerated in Paxilism. The most important religion's holiday for the Paxless is the Week of Peace. The Week of Peace is a week-long holiday about celebrating Paxlism's origins and their patron god, the goddess of peace, Fiona. The holiday begins in the 3rd week of Alurian and goes to the start of the 4th week on Arinde. The Week of Peace is an incredibly important religious and cultural aspect of the humanoids living in Castriel. It represents their underlying belief in peace and prosperity through power, and gives them a way to connect through Fiona. Throughout the entire week, all Paxless are expected to practice extreme restraint when it comes to violence and any act of physicality that can be deemed unnecessary. During this week, all Paxlists are only allowed to use violence to defend themselves, but even then, if running is an option, you're expected to run before you fight. During the Week of Peace, many humanoids take the time to return home and spend time with their family, enjoying their company and having a grand time. This week is considered the break week for all followers, as you aren't expected to do any demanding work that might distract you from your religious duties. At the end of the week is Fiona's birthday on Alurian the 28th. On this final day of the Week of Peace, every single Paxless is required to attend church and listen to the sermon of the priest. Anyone caught trying to skip will be punished severely. Only on rare occasions will people be deemed not well enough to attend. The sermon lasts roughly half a day and serves as an everlasting reminder of Fiona and her ideals. Afterwards, Paxlists across Castriel make the journey to the head temple across the Orc Forest. There, the Hewa icon will give a speech about something related to religion. Thereafter, Fiona will appear before her followers and bless them with everlasting peace. Besides the Week of Peace, however, Paxlists don't particularly have any other religious holidays. The main reason for this is that the humanoids living in Castriel tend to have very mobile lifestyles. They don't enjoy staying in one place for too long, so it's hard to organize them all for very long. The Week of Peace not only serves as a way to spread Fiona's message, but also as a way to prove the unity between the Paxlists despite their normally detached existence from one another. Overall, when it was started as an attempt to spread Vititis to Castriel, developed its own unique religion with unique icons and a unique god. Today, Pax lives in a dominant phase in Castriel, despite the Humanoid Alliance's attempts to remove it, and acts as a bastion of peace against the normally monster-ridden continent.
Oh, damn, okay. You know, that sounds kind of similar to what Athenos has been doing, I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was that sentence about? Just, you know, fighting to protect others. That's pretty interesting right there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
So, you know,
Athenos becomes a Paxlist.
well, yeah, no, like the idea is planted now, you know, like that idea of peace, that sounds pretty good, I'm not gonna lie to you, Chief.
Jamal's like screaming right now. He's saying, no, why can't you be a one-dimensional, edgy character that just goes around hating the world and killing people? No.
No, listen, Athenos isn't just gonna willy-nilly become a Paxilus, but like the idea is there, you know, it can be developed.
But I think it's a pretty accurate description of Jamal. No, my one-dimensional character that doesn't have any development but kills people and has a scythe. No.
I mean, listen, all I'm saying is if like any Paxilus
he's not even responding because he knows I'm right. Like, see that? Look, he's not even responding. He knows I'm right. He's just silently mad about it because he knows I'm correct. Jamal, don't respond.
Wasn't George Washington a Federalist in theory, but opposed to political parties similar to a certain someone? I mean...
Yeah, hey, Jamal, don't respond if you know I'm right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
No.
Let's go. No, way too late. Notice how he waited until the last second? That means he didn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, what was that? He's like waited till 1.
Yeah, so we all know he knew I was right. He just wanted to pretend like I wasn't.
No, it was just to give you time to reconsider, you know.
So you
What?
really don't respond in 1 second if I'm right. 1 Mississippi. Oh well.
It's not. That's not how that works.
No, it is. So explain to me how I'm not right. We all know you're secretly angry that Athenos actually has character development, unlike Killian, who's literally a fucking loser.
He's just like, wait a minute, Killian has developed. He's a dog.
Killian when lore. History.
History.
When going into a fantasy world with magic and sorcery, I want to read books.
Base.
I want to learn about
government. Don't worry, Connor.
This is
he gets
what
to
I
learn
sound
about my
like.
Don't worry, Connor. He gets to learn about my government now. You know, he'll be able to see the completely original, totally not copied and like modified
Mhm.
government of the Humanoid Alliance.
Anyways, you put the book on Paxlism away.
Yeah.
You now understand like how the original Democratic Humanoid Alliance really took hold and what their ideals were centered around. This gives you a better idea of how you want your government to kind of be formulated.
I mean, yeah, we do want people to be kind of peaceful. That would be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. There's probably some other stuff to pick up here that I could learn about. Let's see. Let's learn more about the goddess of peace. You know, let's see more about it.
See, I like how even though Dredd and Elpis did research, their research is actually focused on something that mattered. Jamal was like, general history. By the way, at this point,
And
Meryl was
Naruto's just what? You cut out her.
And
Naruto's just
died.
That was the timing of a century.
Damn. You just
I
fucking
unmuted and Discord froze. Wow.
You don't understand how funny that was. You were just like, and Meroth is, and then you just cut off, and then I was like, hey Burp, and you cut out, and then you just left the VC.
I unmuted and Discord just like froze and I had to close out of it. Oh my god.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah, Meroth is a bored child in a library and that's it.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, like Jamal's like, I'm gonna learn about general history. Anyways, yes, you go through the library continuing, and eventually you find the section on gods. You scan through a few of the sparse gods and find the book on Fiona. The book reads, by the way, at this point, it's probably around 6 p.m., just so you know.
Okay, alright.
I'm starting to get hungry. Anyways. Yeah, the goddess of peace, Fiona. The arbiter and enforcer of peace in Althvinhaim, Fiona is the unbiased, fair goddess of peace. She serves the goddess of water, Lifa, and is responsible for maintaining and upholding peace in the world and ensuring war and violence don't bring ruin to all intelligent races. She is kind and caring, but also objective and powerful. If anyone takes extreme and unnecessary actions to attack peace on a global scale, she will be the one to quickly intervene and shut it down. She isn't anti-war or anti-violence necessarily. She understands that the role both play in maintaining the world and isn't going to stop any and all conflict, only ones that threaten the entire world. Fiona is the symbol of worship for the Paxlism faith, most common amongst human, non-human, and non-elf humanoids. The faith believes that all problems can be solved with peace. They are similar to Vitidists, however. They're not true pacifists. They believe in peace, but they also consider physical violence a form of enforcing peace and will not hesitate to do so. Fiona does involve themselves regularly in the faith, showing up to important events and blessing her followers. Fiona has the body of an older teenage human female. She wears a lavender dress lined with some gold and silver. She also wears 3-inch heels, also colored in lavender. Her eyes are a bright yellow and her hair is snow white. She has a few magical golden rings on her fingers and large bracelets on both her legs and arms.
Right, so, you know, she sounds pretty cool, too. Nice. You know, I don't... the Fiona vs. Lies battle probably would have gone crazy. You know, someone make a fan fiction on that. I don't know. Someone write that down.
Speaking back to what I was saying earlier, I bet more people would enjoy reading a Sylvius's memories than listening to Jamal's lore.
Okay, but yours would like cut out all like the fluff.
Uh-huh. It's 24 pages and I'm only a week in.
I mean, yeah, but like,
I mean, there is a little bit of fluff in there, but it's overall, I could read it. I like it.
Yeah,
It's
read
okay.
it. Would you read it over listening to Jamal's sessions?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
okay.
Dude, I would read Naruto fanfiction over watching Jamal's videos again.
For 3 hours though?
Yes, I've read some good Naruto fanfiction, man.
Based? Anyway.
Like, I got invested. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. You put the book away and you now have a very good understanding of Paxlism, Fiona, and the old government of the Humanoid Alliance.
I mean, that's very interesting. But you know, all this reading, I need to get some grub and not the Hollow Knight bug like food. We gotta go grub. We gotta find something to eat.
Yes. Deciding that you've learned enough for now and it's starting to get late, you decide to head out and get something to eat.
All right, let's go out to a random restaurant and see. Hey, what's on the menu? What can I have today? What's up with that?
You head out and begin looking for a restaurant. You fly around for a bit with people still waving at you. You're still not used to it. Yeah, and eventually you come across a nice-looking restaurant.
Ooh, okay, that sounds pretty interessante.
You enter the restaurant, and there's a lady standing. Who looks like appears to be a deer folk sitting at the front counter. Who appears to be the one who will seat you. Yeah, you head into the restaurant, and the lady, realizing who you are, quickly bows and, like the librarian, a bit like flustered, is like, President Dredd, what exactly brings you here?
I look at her and I'm going, well, I'm a little bit hungry today, so here I am.
She goes, oh, of course. If you follow me, you can take a seat.
Imagine having to serve the president, but yeah, I follow her. Like you're just chilling one day, and then suddenly the fucking president of the country walks in through the front doors.
Literally.
Is it your job to see them?
Yeah.
Like,
You yeah. She sits you down at a table and hands you a menu, and she says, "Sorry, the menu's a little limited now because thanks to your overthrowing of lies, we've been able to reintroduce more culturally accurate dishes. However, our food supplies are still low, so there really isn't much we can still offer yet. However, hopefully, over the coming months, it should become a lot better."
I just nod in response, and then I ask her what items are on the menu today.
She explains that she goes through the menu and says, "Well, in terms of she says, okay, let me pull up the stuff first. Plants and animals." She says, She says, "Well, we have two types of main dishes. Either we have fish dishes and meat dishes, whichever you're interested in."
Fish dishes, please.
She nods and says, "Okay. Yes. Our main meat are what we call gestapalt ewes. They are these big, fluffy creatures with stringy, messy wool. If you want some, we have so the dish that is most common in here in the Human Alliance is basically just ewe. Our ewe dishes personally come with an assortment of vegetables and medley of other ingredients. We can have the meat is cooked however you like, and unfortunately we would provide more starchy food, more starch and other ingredients. However, like I said, we're a bit low on ingredients as of now.
Okay, so Athenos would order the gestapelt ewe with a random assortment of vegetables. Let's get a bit interesting here.
She asks before that if you like any appetizers. She says they have things like salad. They have right now the only things they can offer is salad, what she basically describes to you as what sound like essentially a small pasta dish. From what she explains to you, she uses a lot of like ingredient terms you're not familiar with, and so based off and because of like different names, so based off of what she explains to you, you introduce it between what sounds like a pasta dish, maybe like just yeah, maybe like a small plate of spaghetti, and maybe a yeah, just it's really difficult to understand what you're saying, but eventually you can kind of make that out, as well as just a simple what one could say salad. She also says that they thanks to his overthrowing of lies, the fishing industry has really caught up, and so they
Oh, thank God.
they
My inner pescatarian is kicking in. Let's see for the fishes.
They offer appetizers. They have things what you can only assume to be crab cakes with caramelized onion dip. You think it's an onion again? You take every.
Oh, there's no question then, Connor. Have you had crab cakes? Those are delicious. Yeah, I'll take the crab cake for appetizer.
Okay. You said take the crab cake for appetizer, and she asked if there's anything else you'd like, or if you'd like to look through the rest of the appetizers or no.
For now, Athenos is just hungry enough to be fine with that. Yeah.
Okay. She comes back with you. She comes back with you with what look like crab cakes. You note that the crabs here. You were able to recognize what crabs are, and you can only thank that crabs in this world are also called crabs. Just from what you saw on the menu, spelled Krabb.
Let's go! Thanks, other me. I mean what?
Yeah.
What am I saying? What am I talking?
You. I like how you have your memories just closed.
No, I have my memories open.
Oh, I don't see you in it. There we go.
I'm here. Yeah, see, I'm here.
I feel like you just opened it.
No, literally, I'm just like I just didn't click on it after a while, and
anyways, yeah. She actually comes with the crab cakes, and yeah, they're rather large, a bit larger than you expected. You assume it's likely because maybe the crabs in this world are larger, possibly. And you take that, as well as she hands you the what looks like onion dip. The onions seem to be different colors, but you again assume that's likely because the fruits and vegetables in this world are different than the other ones. However, you take your finger and dip it in it and taste it. Yeah, it's onions.
Let's go.
You eat the crab cakes, and unlike the single unseasoned mutton chop you had,
yes,
this is actually good.
Oh my God!
You eat it all.
There's cuisine.
You eat it all quickly, in the fishing industry. Burb's about to come to the Humanoid Alliance, just completely wreck his fishing industry. And Dredge
Dude, Meryl just steps into the government building, starts boxing with Athenos out of nowhere. It's get rid of the fishing industry. No fishermen. No fisherwoman, just get rid of them all.
Yeah, Burb's like, these fish are mine. Athenos, after hearing that one water tiefling it's completely disrupted and dismantled his entire fishing industry.
Athenos on his way to bribe Burb with 25% of the total fishing industry of the Humanoid Alliance.
Literally. Anyways, yeah. After enjoying the crab cakes, quickly after the main course comes out, it is the lamb chops you had earlier, but this time they're not fucking disgusting. They actually have color and a crust on them, with a small glaze on the top, and actually cooked well. Next to them appear to be a bunch of glazed and boiled vegetables. Next to them, they look like basic things, like common things you experienced in America. Carrots, carrots, broccoli, potatoes, etc. Again, it's not not like a fanciful meal, but compared to the garbage you had earlier, it's
we went from Olive Garden to actual Italian. Let's go. The best transition.
You eat the food quickly and it tastes really good. You haven't actually had good food in a very long time. By that I mean
this is a solid 4.5 stars.
After finishing the meal, the woman comes up to you and nervously asks if you enjoyed the food.
I nod at her, just going. It was quite nice, honestly. I very much enjoyed it.
She smiles and seems to almost sigh of relief. He's like, I'm glad you enjoyed it, sir.
I tell her to just call me Athenos.
She shakes her head and says, I couldn't do that.
Well, god damn, I need to remember to just be like, please, just call me Athenos, guys. I'm not used to being fucking called sir. I'm used to serving the sirs. Like, god damn.
She says that she says that she also tells you that your meal will be free of charge as like a thanks for what you've done.
In that case, can I just give her like a 2 gold coin tip?
You hand her 2 gold coins, telling her it's a tip, and she like shakes her hands profusely, saying that she couldn't accept such a tip.
God damn. This is you know it's both a novelty and annoying. I'm not gonna lie. Is this what celebrities feel like? Like I'm trying to be nice off the top of my head, and my gifts are getting refused. Like, whoa.
I mean, they also live in a society where 2 gold's a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, but you know, I was paid by fucking the dwarf mastermind on the continent of Castriel. Oh yeah, speaking of which, let's go hire that guy. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, okay. I guess I reluctantly take the 2 gold coins back. Like, if you insist, type of deal.
She says that she basically says, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but I just can't. It's a very large amount of money. I don't think I could accept that. This kind of makes you realize how impoverished the people were under lives.
Yeah, I know. Like, this is kind of surprising. Like, I was a broke ass bitch before, and now even now, like, whoa. But yeah, I guess eating the meal free of charge. I just like head on out then. Great time all around the restaurant. Friendly atmosphere.
You exit the restaurant, and it's now around 7:30 p.m. The sun's really starting to set, and it's gonna be night soon.
I can't wait to have just like people realize that, hey, the president went out of this restaurant, and it just becomes like a restaurant chain later on.
What?
I knew it! I knew it!
No.
You're so predictable. Holy shit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay, well anyways, alright,
You say that like you ever predict me when you really don't.
I mean, there was that one time where I predicted you and then immediately felt like I didn't even act on the prediction.
Yeah.
Like...
Exactly.
But we don't need to talk about that one.
I think
That
we
was
should
just a
talk
good
about
play.
that.
No. Listen. You know, it's tiring outside. It's 7:30. You know, what activities, what fun activities can we get up to over here in the Humanoid Alliance, the Renaissance? Let us actually, you know, mana. That's kind of important. You know, I just realized. Hey,
you don't say.
What?
You don't say.
You know, mana's kind of important. You know, I would have. If I had any less than what I did, I would have just been absolutely bodied by lies, like even then. So you know what? Let's. I don't even have a. Can I just like crash in the fucking government building?
Yeah, more or less.
Alright, yeah. Let me go crash in the quote unquote White House and just let me do some meditation in there. Who knows? Let's get up.
You decide to return to the live government building, and be flying through the streets. You fly through the streets, and eventually you notice like the many people, men, women, and children all waving at you, smiling. You're happy that it looks that shit has become so much nicer. You eventually return to the room, and you see Lena kind of directing some people around. You go up to her, and she waves to you and asks, "So how was your day trip?"
I tell her that it was pretty good. You know, things went much better than when I originally arrived.
She laughs and says, "Yeah, I suppose the lack of a hyper-extremist dictatorship will do that."
Yes, you see, at least this time I was not gassed on my lovely trip.
She laughs and says, "Yeah, I suppose that's fair." She asks, "So is there anything you need?"
I asked Lena where an empty room is that I can just like begin my meditation practices in.
She says, oh yeah, we actually, I forgot to mention that to you, yeah. If you go upstairs on the top floor, next to Liza's office was a bedroom we renovated out for you.
Oh, thank you for the renovations. It's very much appreciated.
She nods and says, by the way, tomorrow morning around maybe 9, we are going to have another meeting between the government, between us, you, and the rest of the resistance to discuss a few more things regarding the government.
I nod at her, just taking that into consideration. Oh, also, something I encountered when I was stumbling upon my research endeavors in the library. I couldn't help but notice that a particular sentence where the Dragon Covenant apparently wishes to wish to raise the humanoid alliance to the ground, or at least the previous one.
Lena kind of laughs nervously and says, yeah, that had been a point of contention. In fact, tomorrow we were planning on discussing how to move forward with relationships regarding the other powerful forces on the continent.
Yes, well, you see, I don't think it would be helpful to antagonize a dragonoid, as you may be well familiar with.
She laughs and says, yeah, true. She says, well, yeah, for now, get some sleep, and in the morning we were gonna planning on discussing all that jazz anyways.
Little did she realize before I sleep I will do some meditation yawn. So yeah, let's go up to the room and do a bit of like meditating for an hour or two. Yeah.
I need an exact time here.
2 hours.
Before heading to sleep, you decide to sleep for 2 hours. Sorry, meditate for 2 hours. You end up raising your mana pool by 15.
Alright. Okay, coolio.
Dread's slowly getting... Dread might one day reach Burb's mana pool.
One day... What is Burb's mana pool, actually?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
No, hold on. Hold the fucking phone here for a second there,
worry.
boss.
Don't
Hold the
worry
phone,
about
boss. Hold the phone.
it. Don't worry about it.
No, hold the phone, boss. God! Actually, you know what? The meditation will get there. Is that what happened with Zarkon? You just like, here's some mana.
I don't know,
It's
you're
like,
gonna have to watch the video.
Yeah, there is definitely like potential being unlocked here or some shit. Like,
you're gonna have to watch the video.
no, I'm betting cash on that. There's no chance.
Guess you're gonna have to watch the video.
Or if you have not been doing this much meditating, I'm willing to bet money. There's no way you just sit there underwater with your sorry like ADHD ass meditating for hours on end to reach this total. I don't believe it. You know what? I'm a
Yourself
gambler
now.
man. I'm a
Fuck
gambler
you.
man.
I do what I want. Fuck you.
Oh no, she does what she wants. I'm sending in the government police after her. We're going in.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways,
After meditating, it's around 9:30.
I guess in that case, it's time to go to bed, in preparation for the big meeting tomorrow.
Uh-huh. You decide to head out to sleep early, ready to discuss foreign affairs and other things regarding this new government. Yeah, you're gonna have to, in either next session, you're gonna have to pour a lot of days in, because when Burb comes over, the fact that you got through one day today, and she's currently a week ahead of you.
Okay, I got the boring government, we're setting up the new government type deal already out the way. We're gonna have a blast.
I'd say it's probably the most boring of them all.
Yeah, we're gonna have a blast next session is gonna be peak so far. It's gonna be great.
He says.
Trust me.
It's sad too, because I had a lot of fun things planned for the meeting the next day. But if you want to wait till next session, okay.
I mean, okay.